Since I did my post on downlow men, there's been a lot of chitter chatter about, there wouldn't be a downlow culture, if, our society wasn't so homophobic. And I'm here to tell you that I don't think that that's true. Hi, my name is Dr. Natalie Jones. I'm a licensed therapist. I've been counseling men and women for many years now who have experienced abuse, as well as those who have been perpetrators of abuse and other violent crimes. And I wanted to talk a lot about, down low, or talk a little bit about down low culture, down low men, and why I don't think it matters, about homophobia per se. And I won't say that homophobia isn't a real thing, because I think it is, but I'm just going to explain my situation. So down low, for those of you who are just, this is your first time hearing about it, it's about men who are, people who are outwardly presenting themselves as heterosexual to the world, right? But they have a secret homosexual lifestyle, right? They have sex with same sex, same gender loving people, right? And so, for me, in working with, men and women in custody and things like that, I did that for a number of years. I don't think that people are down low because of, they're afraid of being labeled as, a homosexual or lesbian or things like that. I think that there are people who have that, right? Who are living their life in secret, and they don't want their world to be publicized, but they're keeping a secret lifestyle. And so you have those, and then you have closeted people, but then you have people that are down low. And I think, for me, and I've said this before, and I even put like a snippet of my podcast in my stories, depending on when you watch this. I did a podcast a while ago, but for me, it is a form of narcissism and psychopathy. And if you know anything about narcissists and psychopaths, no one really knows them. Right? You may be in a full-blown relationship with them, whether they're gay, straight, or whatever, and they don't allow anyone to get to know the real them. And I would say that this is the same thing for a man who's on the down low. They may be married with kids and things like that, but their wife doesn't know them. She may know aspects of him, right? But even if he's in a relationship with, a man or having sex with men, that man doesn't know him either. Again, they may know aspects of them, but they purposefully keep people at a distance. That's one thing. So they keep people at a distance. They're not going to be vulnerable. They're not going to have any emotional intimacy with anybody. So no one's ever going to get close enough to them. No one is ever going to penetrate their heart, right? So to speak, like other people, like I'm in love, this and that, the other. Down low people aren't going to do that. The other thing too about this is they don't care about hurting people. So that's what makes down low culture so dangerous, is because they don't care who they hurt. It doesn't matter if it's, the man that they're in the same sex relationship with, that person is going to get hurt. The person that they may be married to or in a heterosexual relationship with, that person is getting hurt, and they don't care, they may not use sexual discretion or to wear a condom or things like that to prevent from passing anything. They don't care about who's getting hurt. So a lot of times, even if they're outed, to me, they don't have that sense of sort of shame in many ways that other people go through. And I won't say they don't have it at all, but I don't think they have it I'm sorry I hurt my wife, or I'm sorry I hurt my partner, or I'm sorry I can't fully show up for the man that I'm sleeping with either. So they don't have that sense of I want to do things right. I think you deserve better. it's no, they don't care. And that's why, again, when it comes to STIs and things like that, again, they don't care because they don't take the proper precautions to protect all people involved, including themselves, right? And it's like there's like this sense of entitlement. There's a sense of like, you get what you get. When you get with me, oh, well, who cares? There's that. And again, I've witnessed it firsthand working in prison. You know, you see people that work there. You see people that are inmates there, right? And the inmates get visitation. And I know that these people are having full-blown relationships with other men, full-blown relationships with transgender, and fighting over these relationships too. And then will call their wife or expect their wives and their kids to come up here and, do that. But also, big time into the men who work there as well. So a lot of men who work there, they're checking out the scenery as well. So I think a lot of people forget that in prison is a male dominated environment, at least where I worked, it was. But I think people don't care. And it's just like, it's just like, I'm going to do what I want, and a lot of times when people work in prison and things like that, at least in my experience, those rings and things like that, they don't exist once you get to work. So your spouse can work there. I've seen whole families work there and nobody cares. So it's kind of like that. And again, I go back to, what I said before, a lot of times there's also a progression in sexuality with down low men. They may start out, it's a spectrum for them. So not only do they typically have relationships with same sex, same gender loving men, right? Or with their heterosexual partner, right? So that's two people, but they also were going to experiment with other people and along the spectrum, along the way, they may engage in other behaviors such as high risk sexual behavior, such as hiring, sex workers and things like that. So there could be sort of a sexual progression, but there can also be a sexual recklessness as well. So it's that recklessness that's going to do it every time. And, otherwise, for me, I think, people can have lavender marriages, and people do have lavender marriages where, hey, we both understand my wife is doing her and I'm going to do me, but we both have an understanding of our marriage is a business arrangement or it's just an arrangement, right? Like we both understand that we're not in love with each other. And people do that all the time. People do it all the time for sexuality. People do it all the time for, citizenship and other things like that. So people have those types of arrangements, but it's that I don't want to tell people. I don't feel the right that I need to tell anybody anything. I don't really feel like people need to know me like that. I'm going to do what I want to do. And a lot of times when you have people that have that level of secrecy, plus that level of entitlement, plus just sort of that level of not caring. A lot of times there's a lot of other things that go into the behaviors that these men and women are doing that are, there's probably a whole lot of other things going on that you have no idea. So just them having sex with another man may be scratching the surface is what I'm trying to say. There could be a whole lot of other behaviors, a whole lot of other partners, and a whole lot of other things that they've tried that you don't know about. And there's nothing wrong with wanting to experiment. So in sex. So I'll say that there's nothing wrong with doing that. But I think when you're secretive about it and when you put other people in harm's way and you don't give a damn, that's why, people that knowingly infect other people with HIV is a crime in some states, right? Because there's people out there that just don't have that level of like conscious thinking, like where they're, oh, okay, well, I know I have it, I'm going to protect myself. No, there's people that, and HIV is just one disorder, one disease or illness, right? There's a whole lot of other lifelong illnesses too that can cause havoc and problems. But that's why I don't think It has nothing to do with, you know, the the stigma around homosexuality and things like that. I think it's just the level of entitlement and doing what I want to do and not caring about other people or the consequences bestowed.